Hey, speaking of mishaps, this one's kind of interesting, and it's made the news because everybody's glommed onto this whole conference hotel thing. Put you guys over here. And so here's the synopsis. In January of 2025, this is the fastest I have seen them put out an AIB since I've been doing this. Usually it takes years to get to this point. So kudos to these dudes and dudettes that got this where they are, but they were operating out of Eielson. He ejected safely, sustained minor non-life-threatening injuries, and it's like spinal. Like he really was messed up. So hope he's recovered by now, or at least getting on the path, because that sounded painful. But they valued it at $196 million, which I'm kind of curious where they got that number. But he was flying as the number 3 aircraft on a flight of 4 after takeoff. He got the nose landing gear, didn't retract properly, and he got a caution. And Fat Amy's real smart about that because it tells you, hey, you're about to overspeed. It doesn't just tell you you're oversped. Yeah. It tells you, hey, you're on the way to overspeeding, which I thought was pretty cool. Failed to fully retract, and it turns out that it was canted when they extended it 17 degrees to the left. It took them 50 minutes to troubleshoot, and that 50-minute time is he goes to high key. His wingman looks him over. They go through the checklist. They do the 2 touch-and-go landings. So that's all incompetence. It's not that they were just waiting, but basically looked at it. They said, we can't do any kind of arrested landing because it's canted off to the left. And they ran the checklist. They did some resets. It didn't work. They get Lockheed Martin via conference hotel, which is a thing. Every community has this. And they're like, okay, well, why don't we do a touch-and-go? Because if it'll go wait on wheels, maybe it'll swing it back and center it, because we don't want it going off-roading. They do the first touch and go, and it kind of moves, but then they look at it with the EO from the wingman, and they're like, nope, it's still off. They're like, well, let's try it one more time. Well, unfortunately, the second time, when the landing gears compressed, they stayed compressed as if it was on the ground, and the weight on wheel switch said, you know what, you're done flying for today. You're on the ground. And he wasn't done flying because he did a go around, a touch and go. And so the airplane quit flying like an airplane, pitched up. He turned it away from populated areas and decided to give it back to the taxpayer. So he successfully ejected. In the investigation, they found that the hydraulic fluid was contaminated, and 30% of it was actually water, which is why it froze, because it had been outside 40 minutes before they even took off and froze. And the way they found that was pretty interesting, because 2 weeks later, the same thing happened, and the pilot just landed because he didn't know the nose wheel was canted off to the side, and it straightened like it should have. And so they didn't lose the airplane. So they put it on the jack stands. They swung the gear a bunch of times, and they said, oh yeah, that's what's happening. Once they drained it, they realized it was mostly water as well. So they found the contaminated source, and the AIB president kind of came after him a little bit and said, hey, if you'd have just landed the first time, you could have saved the airplane. But honestly, I think given the circumstances and the knowledge they had, the only thing was they went down the rabbit hole of the nose landing gear and ignored the health reporting codes that said that the weight on wheel switch may have been a problem. Other than that, but they reported it to the Lockheed engineers. Lockheed engineers said, we never heard this. We don't know what you're talking about. And so there might have been some miscommunication, which happens in something like this, Swiss cheese model, all that stuff, but resulted in the loss of an airplane, but no loss of life, which I think is a win. Panel, your thoughts?
That was a wild video when that first came out. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right, Mace. That's a wild video. And to clarify what Mover was saying is, right, Mover went into the flight controls, went into ground mode, basically.
Yeah, it said today is not my day anymore. So it stopped flying like an airplane. And,
right.
You know, I guess what happens probably is flight control surfaces fix and stop responding when it thinks it's on the ground, or it puts it into a ground mode.
Yeah. In the Hornet, it would, you know, because in flight, if you push the stick to the left, probably like the F-16, you may or may not get an aileron to move, right? But on the ground, you test your aileron. So I know in the Hornet, like ground, we never called it ground mode, but like when it's on the ground, your stick movements would cause the flight controls to move as you would expect on a conventional airplane, which is probably something similar to what happened to him when the airplane thought it was on the ground, but it is flying. So the appropriate flight control movements weren't happening. So I guess I got, I don't know, as a Navy guy thinking about that, the 2 touch and go pieces, you know, Mover and I talked off or before the show about this. It's always like the answer in any Hornet emergency is like, just take a trap. Just take a trap. Like, why don't you just put the gear down and take a trap? And I understand that they were concerned about, well, if they tried to take a trap, maybe the nose gear would touch and they'd lose control of the airplane. But they did do 2 touch and goes as it was, where the nose gear never touched the ground. So, why not have the hook down and try to snag the wire? Do they have a cable there? I don't know. I assume they do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I assume they do. And I was talking with an old buddy of mine, and he was talking about just how the procedures are written. They don't really, arrested landings are consideration in the F-35A, but more for like brake type failures, not necessarily direction control. And I don't know if it was like that in the F-16, but I just know as a Hornet guy, I mean, we had a canopy come open in flight, and it was like, well, can't find anything in the book. You better take a trap. So
when I got struck by lightning, they wanted me to take an arrested landing, and I'm like, why? And they're like, well, as soon as Chile clears the landing area, you go take your trap. I'm like, no, I'm just going to hold and land normally, but you should take a trap. Like,
the idea is like, no matter what directional control problem you have, no matter what brake problem you have, like if you're on the verge of passing out, if the wire grabs, you are stopping. That's the mentality. I'm not saying it's the right mentality, but given the fact that this F-35 did 2 touch and goes, it's like, man, why not put I don't call it a velocity vector, but it has a flight path marker or whatever that, they could put it right before the wire. And I know they aero brake. I've seen them do it. Right. So hindsight is 2020, but being a Navy guy, I wonder what are would that procedure have read the same in the F-35C, the Navy variant, as the A, given the difference in the culture that I just talked about? But like you said, Mace, that was a wild video just to see. It looked like somebody just picked it up and just dropped it. It's like, see you later. So good news. The guy made it out. Yep. He's alive. I mean, they're still cranking F-35s off the assembly line, but wild. Yeah.
Mace, I mean, in the Viper, because it's been a while, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the gear indication. It was an option though. Like there were certain trees of the checklist that took you to approach end cable.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened in the Shaw mishap. Was he tried to, because he hit the main landing gear on one of the ILS antenna, not the ILS, the approach lighting, and they're like, okay, take an arrested landing, and that's when it didn't work, and he tried to eject, and unfortunately that didn't work. But you sat SOFL obviously in your career. Did you ever have to do a conference hotel?
I don't think so. No, I mean, obviously we were all briefed up on the procedures for it, but I don't remember ever having done it. I think there was one time when I was in the SPADs in Texas where we had one happen. I cannot remember what it was for. I know I wasn't SOF. Everyone just kind of like goes to the desk and is like listening, like what is happening. But I cannot remember for the life of me what it was for, but it ended up working out fine.
I think pretty much every military jet, it's not uncommon. Like the fact they call Lockheed is not like,
that's not
it's
weird.
not a big deal.
No, people just, they hear 50 minutes on hold with customer support and they're like, whatever. But honestly, Mace, I think people don't get how much, and I'm sure you talk about this in your books, as fighter pilots, we're not an army of one. When stuff goes bad, you have your wingman. In the report, it talks about, he calls the SOF, and the SOF first thing, he goes, okay, I'm on page, E-whatever. Let's walk through it together. Like you're a crew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely was immediately talking to someone that entire time. Then he was in the pattern.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate. $200 million, Gonky.
Well, that's a lot of airplane there, man. I mean, she's kind of, so
pudgy.
Thank you.
Are you a Fat Amy fan, Mace, or like what looks better, the Fat
Are
Amy
you superficial
or the F-16?
like I am?
Looks better? F-16.
Yes,
of course.
Yes, hands
I mean, which one do I want to be in for situational awareness? But F-16 for sure looks better.
See, Gonky and I never have situational awareness, no
No,
matter how many toys you
regardless,
give us. So
doesn't
it
matter.
doesn't matter.
No.
We might as well go superficial because we have no
Yeah.
idea what's happening.
Mover cleans the wing off at the commit anyways, so like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like anything forward to the 3.9 is getting an AMRAM.
You
So,
give me more buttons to push, I'm going to push them.
all
I'm
of
like
them.
the elf in the elevator, dude. I
That's
will hit
right,
every
dude.
button.
Christmas tree.
That's right.
So it's best if I don't have these problems.